Hi, this is Mike Sokol from RVelectricity. And as promised, here's part B on my series on DC meter usage. It does go into a little bit of depth towards the end of it, but guess what? There's a lot of things to know about meters. So sit back and enjoy this 11-minute video. Okay, here's what we're going to talk about. Measuring DC volts, battery charging, state of charge voltages, what is polarity, why you need a true RMS meter for measuring pulse width modulated power supplies, and testing mistakes, such as measuring AC volts while the meter is set on DC. As before, you want to make sure you set your meter scale to the next highest DC voltage you expect to measure. So now you do have some low voltage scales on here, but basically most of these meters will have something of a 20 volt scale. That should be sufficient for testing 12 volt batteries. However, you guys are going to be encountering 48 volt battery stacks. Oh baby, you can no longer use the 20 volt selection scale. For that, you've got to go ahead and bump that up probably to the 200 volt scale. Again, the meter, if you have a manual meter, it has to be set to the next highest range than you expect. You put your black probe into the common jack, the red probe into the volt ohm milliamp jack. Make sure the hold button isn't down and touch the black probe tip to the negative battery terminal or chassis, and the red tip to the circuit being measured. Just that simple. Let's talk voltages. So now, remember, if you're going to be trying to determine if the battery is charged up, you can't just assume 12 volts. So basically, if it's got down to 12 volts, battery's close to dead. So here's a couple of charts I put down up here for you. So a 12 volt lead acid, a sealed battery, an AGM, 100% charge on that is going to be measured like around 12.85, 12.9 volts. Remember, this is without the charger on it, and it also has to set for a little bit to get the surface charge off. So you might turn something on your cars where you just turn headlights on for a minute, basically. But we go ahead and just turn that, go measure right across the battery terminals, and I'll show you a little bit more later on how exactly to do that, but you should be able to see that. You can see if they have flooded lead acid batteries, either a 12 volt battery or 6 volt batteries in series, the voltage is going to be a little bit lower. It's going to be around 12.64 volts or so if it's charged up to 100% capacity, 100% state of charge. Now, lithium batteries are their own little world out there. So basically, charging a lithium battery takes around 14.4 volts to get it to full charge. But 100% is going to be about 13.6 volts compared to maybe 12.6 volts. So it's got about a volt higher to begin with. And you can see when you get a lithium battery, let's see here, when it gets down to 12.5 volts, it's only got 14% of its state of charge, of its charge left, whereas a flooded lead acid battery at 12.5 volts or whatever is going to be, well, gosh, 90%. So what that means is if you install a lithium battery in a customer's RV and they don't update or upgrade their battery monitor, what'll happen is it'll look like they've got full power until the lithium battery is down to 20%, 15% of power, and then it'll just do a nosedive. And everyone will assume that their battery is dead or that something's wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. This is just how lithium battery chemistry works. You can see it's got a higher voltage. It holds that voltage. The difference between 99% is 13.4 volts, 90% is 13.3 volts, 70% is 13.2 volts, 40% is 13.1 volts. So it holds in the low 13s for the longest time. And then, boom, it jumps off the cliff. So a lot of people don't understand that you can, but you shouldn't just install a lithium battery without updating the rest of the components in your RV. Okay, let's talk about polarity. So batteries will have a positive pole marked red and a negative pole marked black. Reversing the test leads won't hurt anything, but it'll cause a negative sign to appear on the meter display. That's how you know that you have got your black lead on the positive somehow. Now, again, another thing to be extremely careful of, you never connect an RV battery in reverse. I see customers do this all the time, RV owners. You will see this in the spring. People will have taken their batteries out of their RV and put them in the garage for charging. And then when they put them back in, they don't remember where the wires go, and they hook the negative to the positive and the positive wire to the negative. And at the very least, it's going to blow the fuses in the converter or inverter. And it can do lots of other damage, TV, refrigerator, anything that needs 12 volts DC to power can in fact be damaged. Now, if your AC changes, it's because AC voltage changes polarity 60 times a second. If you set your meter to AC volts while measuring a battery, you'll get inaccurate results. I think I've got a slide for that. No, I don't. Do I? No, sorry. So yeah, it can measure 24 volts if you set it to AC while measuring a battery. So even though you can get a decent meter that will do a lot of work for you, that cost, $15-20, true RMS meters are really better for professionals because you encounter a lot of things that are not exactly pure voltage. You don't have pure DC, you don't have pure AC. You have something in all of these RVs. It's something that's called a pulse width modulated power supply. And you can see my little diagram at the top there. It just makes a bunch of high frequency harmonics. So this dirty power can fool a lot of meters. So if you have a standard meter and it's measuring really, really weird stuff super high, it's probably because you're on a pulse width modulated power supply. So you can get true RMS meters cost at least $100 more. So they're $150, $200 meters, but this is a lifetime investment for you as a technician. And so what you end up with is the true RMS will ignore all the distortion and harmonics in the waveforms. And they work not only for DC voltage, AC voltage, also for current. So what I use is I've got a Southwire 1409 DT is what I use on my bench for a lot of my tests because it's way more accurate. Usually it doesn't matter a whole lot when you're just doing standard hookups and such. But if you're trying to troubleshoot why a battery isn't charging or why it's discharging rapidly or whatever, then these meters with extra accuracy really, really help. Okay, so now, mistakes, incorrect meter readings. Good golly. There it is. If you set your meter to AC volts while measuring DC volts, you'll get an abnormally high reading. And you can see on this top one of my buddies just called me earlier, a month ago or so. And he said, I got that meter you gave me, because I give out meters to my friends. He says, I'm trying to measure the battery in my tractor, and it's saying I got like 18 or 19 volts. And it says it's a 12-volt battery. What am I doing wrong? And I went, look on your meter, make sure that you're set to DC volts, not AC volts. A lot of people don't understand AC, 120 volts AC is actually about 170 volts peak. So it's at least 40% higher. It's depending on which meter you've got. You can see this one right here. I'm on a 12-volt battery, and it is showing around 24 volts. So the battery doesn't actually have 24 volts. The meter is misreading it. If you set the meter to DC volts while measuring AC, you'll read 0 volts. That's because the darn thing is, half of the time it's a positive voltage and the other half of the time it's a negative voltage. Let me show you this real quick over here, just because it's super interesting. So now, here's my guy. I'm going to go ahead and set this to measure DC volts. I'm on the 200 volt DC scale. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in here. It says it thinks that it's 0 volts, but it isn't. It's actually 110 volts. So what that can do, that's a really, really dangerous thing, because what can happen is you set your meter accidentally into DC, you plug it into an AC circuit, it looks like it's 0 volts, you stick your screwdriver in there and you get shocked or really, really hurt. Now, third thing, never set your meter to the amps or ohm scale while measuring AC or DC voltage. Usually you will blow the meter fuse, but I've seen a couple of meters up close and personal where they were like the super cheapest Harbor Freight meters, and they plugged them into way high a voltage, or they put them onto the amps range and put them across a 120 volt circuit. The meters can actually explode. They can flame out. I was trained for OSHA inspection. Well, not inspection, but I was trained to do OSHA training back in the 70s. And they showed me pictures of guys that had died from their meters exploding in front of them when they were in industrial situations. So I've always tried to use a good meter that's rated for at least 600 volts, not the cheapest little thing that you can get. There is the end of part B. I'm Mike Sokol from RVelectricity, and thanks for watching.